Okay, no problem. We're about 3 minutes into it right now. So anybody else that pops up, that'll be fine. I'll be able to let them in just as well. Okay, no problem. We're about 3 minutes into it right now. So anybody else that pops up, that'll be fine. So first of all, greetings to everybody who's going to be coming on this live chat here real soon. I want to thank a couple of people that's already here, Brother Nikko Sanchez and Brother Frederick Hill. And tonight's subject is who makes the rules for the jurisdiction. I know at times a lot can be said in regards to that, and people can really get feisty over that because we all know this meeting is being live streamed. Got it. And I know that people have issues with Masons and various jurisdictions, but this is going to be a great subject, I believe, and everybody can tune in and have a great conversation in regards to it. And if there's another subject you'd like to talk about, I'm certainly open to that also as we go on. So greetings, everybody who's coming on tonight. Certainly would appreciate you. If you got something you want to say, please let us know in the chat also, and we would definitely get that going. Okay. So let's see how I'm gonna do this right now. I'm gonna see, can I make that screen full? Okay, I think that's gonna work right there. Just looking at it. So greetings, everybody who's coming on. So I'm just gonna let people come in, get into the chat. And if you want to leave a comment, let me know. If you want to put in the name of your lodge you're hailing from, you can do that also. I want to, first of all, I see Brother Melvin Little just teeped up in here right now. So greetings to you, Brother Melvin Little.
Greetings, brother. I'm like 3 minutes from my house, but you know, I'm not gonna mess up tapping in.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. Let me see if I can turn this volume down a little bit.
How you doing?
I got the volume turned down a little bit for me, and I'm quite sure. I'm hoping that everybody can still hear me. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
You good to go, bro?
Say what now?
Okay.
Yeah, you good to go, bro. You good to go.
Okay, I was just kind of figuring out. I didn't want to get an echo in the background here. Got it. Didn't want to have a lot of echoes going on. So is everybody good? Everybody ready to start into this topic for tonight? And like I said, we can have other discussions, other topics tonight. I'm certainly open to that conversation, but tonight we're going to get started as far as who makes the rules for their jurisdiction. That is tonight's topic. And as I said before, for the third time, we can move on to other subject matters. As I said before, if I'm not mistaken, I do have Brother Frederick Hill here tonight with me. I have Brother Melvin Little and Brother Nikko Sanchez. If anybody else wants to join in, please hit the link and you can definitely join in with us tonight. Love to have you in. That's not even an idea. So come on in as we stream this live tonight. Certainly love to have you in. Let's see if I can post that. Nope, that's not it. That's not it. I want to try to post the connection to the live stream if anybody else wants to come in. So I'm going to open this up as far as saying, with the gentlemen here on this particular program right now, what is your opinion, first of all, in regards to the subject title or the subject matter? And then we're going to go into the discussion of who makes the rules for the jurisdictions for which you may be a part of. And does that affect Masonic relationships along the way when you're trying to deal with other Masonic jurisdictions? So if anybody want to take a stab at that, you're certainly welcome to go ahead. I will chime in as we go. Anybody, it's open.
All right, bro. I'm willing to go head first into the pool. Let's see if it got water in it or if it's empty. So my understanding is that in regards to Masonic rules for a jurisdiction or lodge, the jurisdiction makes the rules. The members of the jurisdiction vote to have those rules set in place. That would include any changes to Constitution, bylaws, rules, and regulations.
Okay. Okay, you got anything else you want to add to it, or you gonna leave it right there?
No, I'm gonna leave it there because I mean it's a broad subject. I mean, you know, you could get into when there are emergency sessions that need to be called and things like that, you know, and I'm trying to just keep it on the grand scale of Masonry where it deals with the entire membership, not when there needs to be an emergency session or an emergency meeting called. So my understanding again is that if there needs to be a change or there needs to be, then the rules or regulations or bylaws, constitution, that it requires the membership to vote on that, and then those changes can be made.
Okay. Okay, I get that. Anybody else want to tap into that? No one. Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you're kind of choppy. Go right.
Basically, okay. I'm about to clear up here because I'm about to pull into my house. So I got a dead spot. Basically, what I'm gonna say is the rules and regulations depend on bylaws set in by each individual organization, so they can be. No one should expect their rules and regulations to apply to someone else's, even if it's similar, because according to your bylaws of your organization, that will decide how your regulations and rules move forward.
Okay, what about your constitution? Because, and the reason I said constitution, because we know a lot of people like to base things upon the Anderson Constitution, which in my personal opinion, in regards to the Anderson Constitution, the Anderson Constitution was written for his Masonic jurisdiction. Great, if you can go in and take something out of it and make it work for you, but I believe that was strictly for their Masonic body. That is my opinion. Would you like to add anything to that? No? I think I lost Brother Melvin Little. Well, he just went muted. I know he said he was trying to make it into the house. Brother Frederick, would you like to add anything to that? Did I lose Brother Frederick?
Yeah, I'm trying to settle in. Go ahead. Okay. I'm here though.
Okay. I was just asking in regards to the Constitution of said Grand Lodge. I was mentioning in regards to Anderson Constitution, which I fully believe is a great piece of paperwork, articles, and I believe in it, but I don't think it was meant for all jurisdictions. I think you can take some of the things out of it, you can add to it or take from it, but it wasn't meant for all jurisdictions. The Anderson Constitution, which a lot of Masonic jurisdictions like to refer to because it's probably one of the oldest constitutions that we know of.
And I actually agree 1,000%.
Okay. And I just put that in because we talk about Masonic rules and regulations, and I know that people try to apply different rules to other organizations, and that may not necessarily be so, because even in my own visitation and understanding involving Freemasonry, although there may be 25 landmarks in Masonry, if I'm not mistaken, all of the jurisdictions I've come across, including mainstream, do not abide by all 25 landmarks. I've said that before. They choose which landmarks would benefit their jurisdiction, and they have every right to do so. And I believe that should be applied across the board when you're speaking Masonry, because some people like to go into what you call unwritten laws and rules and regulations. And I often used to say, well, what are the unwritten laws? And it's plainly say unwritten. So therefore, if you have room to make rules and laws to govern your jurisdiction, that is what I get out of what you would call unwritten rules and laws. It is something clearly, if you have yourself a Mackey's jurisprudence, that you would find. And the things you have to structure your jurisdiction to best suit you and what you're trying to accomplish within the framework of Freemasonry and that philosophy. Anybody care to tune in on that?
Yeah, I agree. You know, just like every other country, has seen the United States Constitution and has taken pieces from it because it applied to what they were trying to do. I agree that there should be parts of the traditional constitutions that everyone follows to have a guide. But I also think that at some point in time, you need to update those constitutions, rules, regulations, and bylaws for the current day. Because if you continue to abide by the old ideologies, the old idea, the old thought process, then there's no room for growing or changing or becoming better or more than you already are. You limit yourself to just that idea, and no other idea can live in that vacuum.
Well, I would say this, in the Masonic jurisprudence, for which a lot of jurisdictions do use, we refer to it in our jurisdiction, but we don't necessarily have to use it for everything. We refer to it. I would say this, there's a I don't know which number it is, but it says there should be only one Masonic jurisdiction per state. Now, this is what I found for myself. I found that to be an American exclusive rule. Now, I don't know who agree or who don't agree, but that's what I found. Because when I look across the seas, when I look across in other countries, there are multiple different Grand Lodges in various same provinces as one that has been there longer. And what I found is here in the United States, we have in the Mackey's jurisprudence, where it says that there should be one Grand Lodge per state. And that's an American rule. That's what I found. Anybody would care to comment on that? I know I just can't be by myself.
I mean, that goes to a single thought process. There's no group of people that you're not going to get that many people to say that they all have the same singular thought process. There's going to be different variations to everything, which is why you've got 3-letter, 4-letter, PHO, PHA, UGLE. I mean, that's just 5 right there. That's 5 ideas of how Masonry should be governed. So you can't say that there should only be one. Mm-hmm. There should be multiple, but they should all work together instead of there being this division where one entity feels they have the right to tell another entity that they are or they are not Masons.
Right, but before I go any further, I want to send a shout out and a welcome to Danny R. Williams Jr. I sent him an olive branch, asking him to come on tonight, and he said that he would not be able to come on tonight. He also said that if I was to discuss the banner for what you see behind me that says 1869, 1877, that he would. And I said, okay, we can have the discussion. I personally don't mind having that particular discussion. It doesn't bother me. I just believe that the things that we talk about in Freemasonry you should not take it personal. I think whatever works for your jurisdiction, whatever you put on your banner, however you can tie that knot, it should be tied for your jurisdiction. Yeah, you move forward. I'm not here to tell you.
Well, if I can.
Go ahead.
If I can say something, I'm sorry to cut you off, but here's what I don't understand about other organizations. Why is everybody so busy in everybody else's business when everybody got work to do in their own organization? If you pay attention to your organization, and the things that you need to do as far as everything, like everybody who's in a different organization can point out flaws in somebody else's organization. But if your house is perfect, then you have the right to look at every other organization and make comments. But if it's not your organization, those organizations are sovereign in their own right. No, it doesn't matter how you feel. It's none of your business. And that's not an opinion. That's a fact.
Well, what I've found in various Masonic groups is a tribal mentality, which I'm okay with. I just think along the tribal mentality, if that is what's taking place, if that is what's happening, I just think it should be in such a way to where it can benefit the whole construct of Freemasonry, not just a small portion of Freemasonry.
Right. So you're on base about saying the whole construct, but here's the thing: if masonry, if the basis of masonry, sovereignty lies in that, how can anybody say what is or isn't correct for somebody else's organization? To me, that is the biggest fib of stupidity that anyone can think of. I've been around a lot of different organizations. I've seen a lot of things that I don't agree with, but guess what? It's not my organization. So, because of their sovereignty, even if I don't agree, doesn't make it wrong. If it's okay within their organization, who am I to judge? You or anybody else?
Well, this is why it's important, Brother Little, is that when it is very important that an organization have an identity. It's very important that an organization make sure that they have a history where they can go back and check things and verify for themselves.
Okay, so let me ask you this. Let's say if you have an organization that bases their rules and bylaws based off of another organization's history. So let's say, okay, I say, all right, well, according to this organization over here's history, this is right and this is wrong. Explain to me how that's sovereign. Go live search.
Oh, that's an interesting thing.
So
you might want to repeat that one again. Because I heard you, but you might want to repeat that one again.
I will repeat it again. If you're claiming sovereignty, how can you base any of your views to say, hey, according to this organization, this is right, this is wrong? At that point, you're not sovereign. That means that you have a master. Because according to my organization, it's how we base our rules and regulations. There is no in between. I don't care, Brother Muhammad, you are my brother, I love you to death. I don't care what your organization thinks is right or wrong. It doesn't apply to me. Whether I feel like it's right or wrong, it doesn't apply to me. But I respect your organization's rules and I respect your bylaws, but they don't apply to me.
Okay. I get that.
And so I know to stay in my place. So if you guys are doing something that I don't agree with, who am I to tell you what's right and what's wrong? Because I'm not in your organization. But if I base right and wrong off of another organization, how can I claim myself to be sovereign?
Right.
How can I say, according to this organization, this means you're clandestine? Let's not talk about that. Say, according to my organization, according to the bylaws, the landmark here, and my organization, Brother Muhammad, you're clandestine. That's different. You don't hear that. What you hear is, according to this organization that I like, you're this, you're that. That's kids.
That's a hell of a way of looking at it, to be totally honest with you. But I get it. I get it because what you've done is you've taken someone else's concept of what is and what isn't, and then you try to apply that to everybody else.
What's right and wrong.
Yeah.
Can I be your friend? Let's say me and you're kids, and I come into your house, and your mama cooking, and I stick my finger in the pot like I might would at home. My dirty finger in the pot, walking the refrigerator. That's basically what these other organizations are doing.
Okay.
If I came to your house and me and your kids stick my finger in the pot and your mama cooking, not only is she gonna whoop me, she gonna whoop who too.
Yeah, she gonna whoop your ass too, and me too.
Nah. Yeah, she gonna whoop you for bringing my trifle butt in your house.
Right.
This is no different than masonry, bro.
Okay.
You're literally sitting there saying what is and what ain't based on this and based on that and based on this data, this organization. What are you basing things on? And when you get people.
Oh, you dropped off. You kind of far away now from the mic.
Okay. I said when you get people that are always basing things on the finite things that people are doing wrong, let me clarify something for you. What you get happening now is something real interesting, that they're not really doing work. Nobody wants to talk about in the 1930s, we had 6 million Masons in the US, and now in 2022, we probably got barely 2 million. That's a 4 million Mason drop off.
Okay.
That's because ain't nobody doing their work at home. They should be at everybody else's house putting their finger in their mama's pie.
Interesting.
No, that's a fact, brother Muhammad. Look at these statistics.
You said this is a fact, and you got the data to go with it, huh?
I can provide you with the data. You know, whenever I make claims, I hope people refute what I'm saying so I can make it look bad. And that's just, this is just Masons that they claim to be regular.
Mm-hmm.
That's like being racist. That's like me saying you're 3/5 of a man because you're black.
Mm-hmm.
That's racist. It doesn't make sense.
Well, it doesn't make sense. But what I'm finding out in Masonry, a lot of stuff don't make sense, especially when other people try to apply it to you and your jurisdiction.
That's what I'm saying. So according to the backyard, or according to your house, when people come to your house saying, well, my house, we got to be in before the streetlights come on. Well, my house, I probably got to be in an hour after the streetlights come on. So you telling me I'm wrong?
Yeah,
my rules are different. But if you apply a blanket rule to me that applies to your house, you have to ask yourself who's the fool, the guy listening or the guy talking.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if the guy's listening to the guy talking and he says that's a fact, then he's a fool. The guy talking is talking foolish talk.
Okay.
I'm saying a lot without saying a lot, but I'm saying a lot. If you think I called you a fool, then maybe you might feel guilty, and you could be a fool.
And that's where you can't personalize and put things and bring it so into you. That's another thing I find that Masons do when you're having an open conversation. People and personalize it, like if you're coming at them and you're just trying to really bring home a point in regards to the totality of the brotherhood and what it looks like and what it should be like. Now I have my idea of what Masonry should look like and be like, and so do you. So this is where the great compromise come into play. This is where the maturity comes into play, as you was telling me, in regards to, okay, you can agree to disagree, but you don't have to fall out. You don't have to be so hell bent on your righteousness, or I don't have to be so hell bent on my righteousness till we can't say, okay, you know what? It's good either way. Because as you said just a few minutes ago, that's your jurisdiction. That's how you handle business. That may not be how we handle business. I'll give you a prime example. In this jurisdiction, we could bring a Grand Master up on Masonic charges because he's a member of a lodge. So he's not untouchable. In some jurisdictions, that's really taboo. They will not bring a Grand Master up on charges regardless. So that whole thing varies from jurisdiction to jurisdiction. And I find that to be very interesting because I've had that conversation with brothers before, where a Grand Master's has not fulfilled his duties, and maybe he did some things that was pretty shady, and because he was Grand Master, they felt they was unable to remove him out of office, and that shouldn't be so. I believe that he should be able to be removed from office or impeached. The president can be impeached. What makes your Grand Master? He can't be impeached unless you have it in your rules or regulations to where he's like the untouchable. That's another thing.
You know, I totally agree. So like in our organization, the way our bylaws are set up, it's a little different. So you have your Grand Master and you have Grand Lodges, wherever they may be. Then you have your Supreme Council. Then you have your Supreme Council of 9 that they enact the laws and regulations to pass down. Mm-hmm. So the Supreme Council can call a Grand Master to the carpet. Some people say that's crazy, but it works for us.
Right.
Better than me.
Mm-hmm.
So what I say is, if it works, it's just like a lot of people and organizations don't understand that a grand master can operate without a council, but a council cannot operate without a grand master.
Oh, that's interesting. You saying that a grand master can operate without council, but council cannot operate without a grand master.
Without a grand master, you don't have nothing. See, but a grand master can get rid of his entire council and still exist.
Okay, I can see that from that point
If
of
the
view.
council gets rid of the grand master, it must replace immediately.
Okay.
A grand council can operate without a grand secretary, but you need one.
Mm-hmm.
You can operate without a Tyler, but you need one. You can have somebody wear two hats. You can operate without a grand junior warrior, but you need one.
Mm-hmm.
You can't operate without a grand master.
Right.
That's the replacement. You have to have the replacement. But according to your jurisdiction, in case your bylaws is way different, and it could be different.
And that's the thing you really have to pay attention to. What is it that makes your jurisdiction tick as far as those rules and regulations that come upon it? What is it that makes that tick? Just as you know, in the discussion that I was having earlier today with brother Mr. Danny Williams, he may not, I'm gonna leave it alone, but we was having this discussion in regards to several different things. And as you know, I say, hey, let's have this conversation publicly. And that's what I like to do with any and everybody, especially if there seems to be such a disagreement to where you feel that when Dan, this guy's listening to me and I'm not listening to you. So I feel at times, like with anything else, let's have the discussion. Maybe we're both missing something because we can't listen to each other. And then when you have that open discussion, you are more aware of listening to what the next person has to say. That's what I find.
There's a lot. There's like, okay, like I know Dan, and we have a mutual respect for each other. If he don't respect me, then it's something I knew I didn't know. But we have a mutual respect. It's like how they say there's honor among people.
Hey, Melvin, I think you got a TV on in the background, don't you?
Yeah, let me turn it down. Oh, I'm sorry.
Okay.
Okay, so if there's honor among thieves, guess what? There's also honor among masons. So let's say if Danny's organization cannot consider me as a mason, so maybe Danny can't consider me as a mason because that's what his organization says. I respect that.
Mm-hmm.
But I guarantee you, deep down in his heart, he respects me as a mason, just like how I respect him as a mason. But based on his organizational rules, if he follows his rules and regulations and say Melvin is not a mason, I respect that too, because that's the organization he belongs to. It's not up to me to knock one's organization, but it's up to me to understand. But ask me if I still love my brother. Yes, I do.
That right there is a interesting nut. And for lack of a better word, it is, because what you have just done is said, okay, regardless of what may be stated on this side, regardless of it, you are still my brother. That's what I'm hearing.
Even if Danny says, I can't say I am Melvin's brother, and Melvin, you're not a mason, you're not my brother, it's okay. That's what his organization wants him to be able to say.
Okay.
I'm okay with that.
Okay.
You know why? Because he's doing what he's supposed to do. I know he's an honorable guy. I know he's a good man. I know he's a family man. I know he's a father. I know he's a husband. I know he's doing the right things. I know he's walking masonically.
Okay.
Following his organization's rules and regulations. I respect the hell out of that.
So in other words, whose business is it anyway?
Exactly.
Okay.
Who am I to say, if I felt some kind of way because he can't say I'm his brother, it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's the organization that works for him and he's happy. So who am I to say that his organization ain't right or he ain't right?
Right. I like to use Brother Morpheus.
Get it messed up.
Hey, Melvin Little, I have Brother Morpheus out there by you. He's in some parts of Georgia. Brother Morpheus, can you hear me? Actually, maybe he stepped away for a minute. I have Brother Calvin Brewman is on. Brother Calvin, how you doing? He probably at work moving things around. That's sometimes he does that. Oh my goodness!
Well,
just
I'm here doing some Masonic work. I'm sorry.
That's quite all right. I just had my friend, my brother, and I called him that. Yes, I did. Gean Goldman from the California Grand Lodge. Yeah.
From Cali?
Gean Goldman. Yes, he did just pop in. I want to send him a big shout out.
Good morning.
Good. Come on, Gean. Good morning. Where you at? You're talking good morning.
Up, Big Gean?
I'm tired. If I say it's morning, it's morning.
Brother Goldman.
Before we go any further, Gean, are we going to be meeting tomorrow for lunch or what?
I'm good with that.
Okay.
We need to pick a place up near me.
Well, that's fine. Text that over to me and we'll see what we can make happen.
Okay.
Yeah, and definitely I want to send everybody a shout out, letting them know that we have what you call the lunchmen. Did I say that right, Gean?
Lunch timers. Yeah.
And Brother Gean Goldman's really been really pushing it. And it was going quite well at one time, but when COVID came around, it kind of put a damper on it. So he kind of started zooming it in, and now things are kind of lightening back up. And I think we can kind of move things a little forward.
I think so. I hope so.
Yeah.
And what was I going to say? That's all right. But yeah, anybody in the San Diego area is welcome to join us. And we're going to try to get them back up to about once a month. And we'll do the virtual lunch timers as we can get people to host them.
Oh, yeah.
I'm tired of hosting them all.
Oh, well, you know what? Since you threw it out there, I think I can do one. On my days I'm off, I don't mind.
Okay.
We'll get together and we'll see, can we make that happen?
All right. Yeah. Sounds good.
Yeah.
So the reason I wanted to attend this is because I wanted to kind of share. I think my Grand Lodge has a very mature legal system built. Our law, the California Masonic Code is several hundred pages of a 9x12 PDF document. And it used to be a book about yay thick. Thank God we don't have to republish the book anymore.
Right.
And because things are changing all the time, and but it is available to any member of the jurisdiction that wants to download a copy. All they got to do is go to our Grand Lodge private site, and it's there for download along with a whole bunch of other documents.
But you said, wait a minute, go back. You said any member. So that's a member of your jurisdiction, correct?
Yeah, any member of a lodge under the Grand Lodge of California.
Right. Okay. Just wanted to have clarification.
Yeah. Any of our Masons.
Okay.
And you guys have seen me quote from it from time to time as circumstances warrant. Our law certainly is not secret. One of the interesting things we did in my jurisdiction, shortly after I got raised, I had occasion to ask, how do I know what is secret and what is not secret? And our Grand Secretary, who is also a noted Masonic researcher and historian, and now past Grand Master, it gave me the most beautiful definition that I could even think of. And we do not write down anything that is secret. So if you see something written down or published by the Grand Lodge of California, you may safely assume it is not a secret.
Gotcha.
You know, it's simple math. All right. Our secrets are not printed. If it's printed, it's not one of our secrets. So that's, you know, it makes it a lot easier when you have that understanding, and it alleviates a lot of what otherwise might be confusion. As far as our law, contrary to what you may have seen on other people comment on Facebook, there is a subtlety to it, to who writes the law and how is it written, who decides what is law and what isn't. In the Grand Lodge, California, there are several ways that something may become, actually 2 ways that something may become law. First of all, our Grand Master, like the masters of our lodges at the lodge level, has almost unlimited legal authority throughout the Grand Lodge.
Okay.
Or his term of office. He may not make any decisions or proclamations or exclamations or permutations or anything that extends beyond his term of office, because his authority ends on a date certain when his successor is installed in office. And he loses all of that authority. You know, they can proclaim this shall be the case, that shall be the case, and it shall be for the rest of the Masonic year. In order to be codified into our law, it has to be ratified by the Grand Lodge. So all of his official legal decisions and interpretations and edicts and all of those things are put up for vote with the other legislation at our Grand Lodge sessions. And the members of our Grand Lodge vote on whether or not we want that to be the case in perpetuity. And as often as not, we'll turn them down. If the Grand Masters, you know, decide something that the members of the voting members of the Grand Lodge don't like, we tell them no.
Right.
You know, so.
So I have a question for you. Well, I have 2, but I'm going to ask them. So where do you get, or where have you seen where the Grand Master, or have you heard the Grand Master having this unlimited authority over the jurisdiction?
That is in our codified law.
Okay.
His scope of authority is very well defined. And basically he acts on behalf of, he acts as representing the Grand Lodge when the Grand Lodge is not in session.
Okay.
However, at the end of the year, when the Grand Lodge is in session, we are the Grand Lodge, and he's a vote.
Doesn't he have to give an account of the things that he's done while not in session?
Yeah, he
submits
any of his decisions, proclamations, whatever that he wants to be codified for vote. Another way that something can be submitted is we have quite a good referendum process.
Okay.
Where members of any 3, if at least one member of at least 3 lodges writes a proposition, it can be sent up to the Grand Lodge for voting at the annual communications. Now, both types go through several committees. Our Committee on Jurisprudence, our Committee on General Aims and Purposes, any special committees that might be appropriate given the way the legislation is affects. Their primary purpose is to make sure, and I know members of most of these committees, their purpose and their intent is to make sure that what is presented to the Grand Lodge for balloting represents the desire of the author.
Okay.
All right. So, because sometimes somebody will propose a piece of legislation and it will have the opposite effect that they wanted. Right.
Absolutely.
It goes to our, we call them the Jurisprudence Committee, our Jurisprudence Committee, and our Jurisprudence Committee work with the proposer or the proposers, make sure, okay, this will be the effect if it passes. Is this what you want to have happen? And if not, they make whatever adjustments they need to make. They also rationalize any duplication. If there are two resolutions that are very similar in effect, they may recommend that they be combined or one be withdrawn because it's a virtual duplicate of the other, or whatever, just to keep the balloting simple and to prevent conflicts. Because if you have two resolutions, and we've seen this in the civilian sector, you have two resolutions that intend for the same thing to happen, and one passes and the other doesn't pass, where are you?
Right, right.
Okay, so they address all of those things. Aims and purposes basically puts a recommendation based on what they believe to be the fundamentals and principles of Masonry in this jurisdiction, and whether or not that resolution fits within them. So they will make a recommendation to the Grand Lodge, as will the Jurisprudence Committee and the, whatever the Finance Committee submits a report on the financial effect of the legislation, and so on and so on and so on. So any member of our Grand Lodge may propose legislation. The Grand Master usually has 10 or 12 pieces, mostly housekeeping, what we call housekeeping, where, this section of the California Masonic Code was a little vague because we discovered this particular situation, and we clarify the language, and that kind of thing. And a lot of them are very, what I call parochial, where we require our lodges, for example, a good example, we require our lodges to meet on a monthly basis as defined in their charter.
Okay.
Or in their constitution and bylaws, actually, not in their charter. In their constitution and bylaws. And they may change that by vote of the lodge. However, there have been cases such as a couple of lodges up in the north end of the state, right on the near Reno, Lake Tahoe, that couldn't meet during winter months because it was impossible to get to the lodge. So we had legislation drawn to where they are an exception to that must meet on a monthly basis rule. And, little things like that, that just make life easier for the membership.
And that's the beauty of it all. What you just explained now is exactly how California Grand Lodges ran. And the uniqueness behind that is saying this works for us. This is how we run it. This may not work for everybody else. This is why I listened to you say, well, it's the language. You want to make sure the language is clear in the operation of the jurisdiction. And that's a beautiful thing. The next question that somebody wants to ask, I think this is off subject, but they ask, it says, where did the word rabbi originate from? Somebody asked a random question.
Spell it. Spell the word.
Where did the word rabbi?
Spell it.
It's Rabbi.
Oh, rabbi.
Rabbi.
Oh, that's a Hebrew word meaning teacher.
Okay.
And specifically, I believe it comes from the Old Aramaic, but it specifically today refers to usually an ordained person, but somebody who teaches Mosaic law, the law of Moses.
Okay.
And you can find the law of Moses in Leviticus. That is the law of Moses.
Okay.
So, but anybody, therefore, who teaches Mosaic law, which would include me right now, is a rabbi.
Wait a minute, back that up. Repeat that.
I just taught you a lesson in Mosaic law. Under Mosaic law, a rabbi is someone who teaches Mosaic law.
Okay.
This is a lesson from Mosaic law.
So you're now considered the rabbi.
That makes me a rabbi.
Oh my goodness.
Okay.
L'chaim.
But usually it refers to someone who is ordained and has a pulpit. But we treat our rabbis a little bit differently than most religions treat their clergy. Rabbis are employees of the congregation, and the congregation usually reminds the rabbi of that at every opportunity.
You know what? I'm gonna say this. That reminds me of the Presbyterian Church, but we're gonna let that be where that's at.
Yeah. We hire and fire rabbis as desired. And as a matter of fact, we have a saying that they teach students in rabbinical school. Any rabbi whose congregation doesn't want to ride him out of town on a rail isn't much of a rabbi.
Mm-hmm.
Any rabbi that lets them isn't much of a man. So we expect our rabbis to stand up for the principles of Judaism, and we refer to them very much like in our collective world, we would refer to a doctor for a medical issue or an attorney for a legal issue. They're well studied as a rule in law, in Torah, in tradition, in our customs, in the prayer liturgy, and so on. And so we depend on that education to guide us, but we're not bound to what they decide. And what they come up with when we ask them a question is their best recommendation,
Mm-hmm.
and no more than that. But anyway, back to Masonic law. Another interesting aspect is in my jurisdiction, the Grand Lodge consists of the wardens, masters, and past masters of our constituent lodges.
Mm-hmm.
And the way it works is this: each lodge is afforded 4 votes at the Grand Lodge annual communications. And one that consists of 1 vote each to the master and wardens by virtue of their office, only during their term of office, and each lodge gets 1 collective vote for the past masters of that lodge. And then Grand Lodge officers each have an official vote. Past Grand Masters retain their vote in perpetuity, their individual vote in perpetuity. And I think that's pretty much it. But so, when we have to remind our members from time to time, when somebody says Grand Lodge said, or Grand Lodge won't let you do this or that, What we're talking about is the collective wisdom of the masters and wardens, because they constitute just less than 75% of the voting population of our Grand Lodge.
Oh, okay.
Past masters, we have 25% of the vote, a little less than 25%, because Grand Lodge officers have votes and so on. So the past masters of my jurisdiction really don't have a whole lot of authority once we leave office. We're there mostly to settle ties and in an advisory capacity more than anything else. But we cannot overrule everybody else at the Grand Lodge, even if we all got together and put in, the same vote on everything. It would be less than 25% of the voting population. The other thing that I found interesting when I started learning about the law in my jurisdiction is we have three thresholds for passing a piece of legislation. If it is a housekeeping measure or something that does not change the California Masonic Code, it can pass on a simple majority. If it changes the California Masonic Code or our ritual, it must get a 5/6 vote in order to pass. If it gets a majority, but not 5/6 of the vote, which is damn near unanimous, then it is carried over for a year where it only requires a 3/4 majority.
And that's interesting because we talked about something similar to this before. And I told you within my jurisdiction, once you become a Master Mason, you've been there for a year. Every Master Mason has a right to vote, one vote. And whereas in some jurisdictions, you only have the junior warden, senior warden, which for master would carry that vote for that lodge. It's different here. Some years back, we voted on that. We found it was necessary. That was in order to get definitely more participation. And so the brothers can feel as if they really have, not if, but they do have a buy-in of what's being said, although you may have large representation there. So on that end, when you speak of vote, that works for us.
Well, and that, yeah, it works for you, and that's great. And that is a very workable system for a jurisdiction your size and with your geographic placement. We have over 700 lodges and a little less than 100,000 Masons in the Grand Lodge of California. We're spread from the very north end of the state down to the border of Mexico, from Canada to Mexico, or from Oregon to Mexico. Okay.
No, slow it down a little bit. Slow it.
and across the state.
Right.
It would be totally unworkable with our mass to allot every member a vote. It
right. Now
couldn't work.
Now,
so we have kind of a mixture of representation where, and there have been a couple of times when something has been proposed to give each past master, for example, an individual vote. And I've argued against that every time. I've said, in our lodges, we elect our wardens and our masters to rule and govern our lodge. Let them be the ones who determine how this Grand Lodge is ruled and governed. It makes sense. We put them in that position. Let's let them have that authority. And the past masters, well, we just can't resist sharing our wisdom. So, but I would hate to see the Grand Lodge of California grant every past master an individual vote. That would just be, that would not be good. Because then we would immediately outnumber the masters and wardens.
Mhm.
That wouldn't be right. That wouldn't be right. We asked them to run the show. We had our shot, and we
Now,
asked them to run the show now.
I'm
So
going to ask you to do something for me real quick, and because I'm going to move on to another subject. But take a look in your chat, just in your chat, in your personal chat on your Zoom. You don't have to read it aloud. We've already had that conversation.
yeah, and I know about it, and you know about it, and I'm more than happy to discuss it with anybody with your, consent, of course.
Mhm.
But it was an oversight, and the people that were responsible for the error in judgment were trained on the proper procedure.
Okay. That's about right, ain't it?
Huh?
I said that's about right.
Yeah. Yeah. It shouldn't have happened, but it did. So we taught them the right way to do things, and there you go.
Okay.
We don't put people's head in a noose for making a simple error.
Uh-huh. And I know people probably were probably kind of saying, well, what is he talking about? What is it that he read? And I'm gonna tell you now, you see what I put down there. I was not going to do that because you and I had that conversation before.
Yeah.
Along with other Masonic brothers. So we know. And I know that others would love to eat that up. I mean, personally, I know others would love to eat it up. So I'm going to leave that where that's at.
Okay, and that's where it is.
All right, then.
But yeah, our like I said, I was discussing it with your Grandmaster Omar. And I was surprised at how, and I don't mean this as a pejorative, but how immature. He showed me your law, your Grand Lodge code, and I was surprised it was so immature from a legal perspective. It just didn't seem to cover a lot or very well. And ours, on the other hand,
more extensive.
We go into a lot of detail. I wanted to share one other thing.
Hold it. Well, go ahead. I'll be right. Go ahead.
Okay. Any of our past masters are perfectly capable of citing from our codified law. And as a matter of fact, we require each of our senior officers, to pass tests on Masonic law in this jurisdiction. And those tests are not easy. I will tell you, I've done it twice.
Okay.
And I will not do it a third time because I have nothing to prove.
Right.
Those tests are quite thorough. And they are all essay questions. And you have to support your answer with argument for and against, like a bar exam. For example, if a member is late and seems inebriated when he arrives,
hold on, time out for a minute. I'm watching the chat group here, and I want to clarify something real quick beforehand in regards to what someone has said, and to finally put something to rest. I'm going to say this in regards to that situation at hand that we was talking about just a little while ago, just so because I have you on here, we don't have to discuss it any further because you've said what you had to say, and I know just as well as you know, nobody snuck into anything, and I'm going to leave it at that.
Yeah.
Okay, nobody snuck into anything, and I'm gonna leave it at that.
Knowing more than a little bit about the situation, that's a fair assessment. That's a fair assessment. There was an error made in procedure, and that error has been corrected.
Yeah.
So there you go.
There you go.
Yeah.
You know what? I get asked that question like all the time, and I'm like, really? But you hear just as much as I hear it. I know you do.
I know. Yeah,
So.
I do. Probably more because I hang out in places where you're not welcome. No, but our senior officers, and particularly our masters or masters elect, before they can be installed in office, have to pass a battery of tests on Masonic law, custom, protocols, coaching, a whole range of topics. And I would put one of our past masters up against anybody else from any other jurisdiction, including Brother Glenn, on the California Masonic Code. And I know that our past master, whoever it is, would be more than able to discuss it with him as a peer.
Did you just call out? You said Glenn who?
My dear friend and brother Glenn. Yes.
Okay. All right. But as a member of the California Grand Lodge, you should know the inner workings in Masonic code for your jurisdiction. If you don't know anything else in regards to that, especially if you're on the various committees.
I'm gonna correct you. I'm gonna correct you. As a past master of my jurisdiction, I do know the code.
Okay.
My jurisdiction.
There you go.
I have been tested on it.
Okay.
A number of times. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to do something here because I mentioned this earlier. If you will permit me, to share a screen. Will you permit that?
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Hold on. Let me give you.
I need sharing privileges, which I do not have currently.
Hold on 1 second, brother.
Allow.
Yeah, there's an allow.
It will.
Want to give him notes?
Put it up. Boom, make it big. There you go. And you can give him the host. So I'm gonna give you the host, Gean.
Okay. All right. I think I just got it. Let's see here. There we go. So just to prove my point, the California Masonic Code. And this is an older version, but I have the 2020 version. And let me show you. Now, understand, California has more attorneys per capita.
Wait, look, Gean, are you sharing that for them or me? Because we've had this conversation.
This is true. California has more attorneys per capita than any other state in the union.
Okay.
In fact, New Jersey has more attorneys has more toxic waste than any other state. And do you know why that is?
Why is that?
New Jersey won the coin toss.
Oh, you want to stay right here? I'll be right back. Okay.
And they took the toxic waste. But just to kind of show you here, our Masonic code goes into annoying levels of detail, including every Grandmaster decision, the Grand Lodge was started. At least every Grand Master's decision that was ratified by the Grand Lodge. And the legal part of it goes on for some 350 sections. Okay. So it is, I would say it's a fairly mature legal system. That, you know, that we've come up with. You can see some of the titles here on some of the things on trials and restorations and relief and financial support and objections and visiting and affiliations, and there's the powers of the master, and we also have the powers of the Grand Master up in the Grand Lodge section. So it goes on quite a bit, and by the time a man is installed in office, he knows how to research that code pretty damn well.
Right.
Because he's had to do it. And he's had to pass multiple tests and very serious tests on it. So, yeah, I mean, I know our law, not as well as some, better than others. I've never served on the jurisprudence committee, but I do know people who are on it and have been on it, and I'm familiar with the work that they do, and I've looked at their recommendations and their statements and so forth. So, yeah, that's our way of doing it. And I know there are jurisdictions that have great success where every member of the jurisdiction has a vote. There are jurisdictions that have great success where all of the past masters have an individual vote. And other schemas, but for Grand Lodge of our size and our composition and covering our graphic area, I think our system serves pretty well. It's our membership well.
Somebody asked in the chat, are you Jewish?
I am.
Okay. He is. You heard him. Wow. I'm just take a look. I'm going to put something in your chat real quick. Take a look in the chat.
Okay, I'm perfectly willing to go public with that.
Okay.
The question is, does Talmudic law take precedence over Mosaic law in my life? I have yet to see a conflict between them.
That's just like asking me when I go from church to the mosque.
Yeah, it's there. I have never. I cannot conceive of anything that would create a conflict. But it helps to remember that there is law in Judaism. There is law, and there is we have two kinds of law. There's Mosaic law, which is the law you find in Leviticus. And there is Talmudic or rabbinic law. And understand that Talmud is commentary, not scripture. Talmud is full of opinions and positions and arguments that span hundreds and hundreds of years. And what has evolved out of it in the kind of a common law type situation is rabbinic law. And that is the collective wisdom's best guess of what should be. This is not what it says in scripture. And I'll share, if I may, a personal experience with this. When I was a new Mason,
Mhm.
at the time I was more religiously observant than I am today. And I habitually kept my head covered, which is a custom that a lot of Orthodox Jews observe. And when I took my first degree afterwards, I was taken aside by a past master of my lodge who was Jewish, who discussed with me the Masonic custom of only the master having his head covered in lodge as an emblem of authority. And we talked about it, and I discussed the issue also with my rabbi. And we came to the understanding that for a Jew, even an observant Jew, to keep his head covered at all times is a custom, a rabbinic law, not a halakhic law or a law of Moses. You won't find it in Leviticus. It's a custom that's evolved over time. And so it's not binding, it's guiding. And but also with the caveat that if I normally keep my head covered, for me to remove my head covering in order to, for example, go into a lodge room would be actually a sign of disrespect. Because it would be to say that this is not a place where you can find holiness. This is not a place where you can find God. So ever since then, I don't keep my head covered anymore all the time. I usually do if I go out, especially when it's sunny, but it's not to the extent that I did. So that therefore there is no conflict, and I can't imagine a situation where there would be a conflict. And I would argue that in our degrees, we are taught that our duty to deity is the most important duty we have. And
Well,
after that,
I would say in most Masonic jurisdictions, not all, but in most that I've come across, that is ace number one. That is the number one thing that is usually passed down.
and so in case of a conflict of any nature between Masonic law and religious law would take precedence. It would have to, because that's what Masonic law requires. Again, you have that math working again.
Yep.
It's kind of calculus rather than simple algebra, but nevertheless, it's math. We are told your first duty is to God.
Mm-hmm.
So if there's a conflict, what do? Well, that's pretty obvious, isn't it? I hope that answers.
Before you go any further, brother Gean, I want to just double check something. Traveling man on here, is that Smooth Hudson? Is he traveling man? Because there was another traveling man in here once before. Just double checking to make sure. Also, someone asked a question: did the Templars come into the creation of their financier? How did the Templars come into the creation of their financier?
I have no idea. That was before my time.
Okay.
I wasn't born yet.
All right. Let's see. Neither was I, but you know how that goes. Yeah, but I'm not for sure if Smooth Hustling and Traveling means the same person, because there was another gentleman here by the same name. But if so, yeah, we can get him bounced. That's no problem. I hadn't seen where these people need to stop lying I'm not worried about that. But that's about it. We've been on here for 118. Hey, Gean, I want to say I appreciate you coming on. You really broke down a lot of things in regards to the Masonic Code and the California Grand Lodge. I want to say I appreciate you coming on and just sharing that with us.
No problem.
And my brother Morpheus out of Georgia, he didn't say very much. I think he was just in tonight. He just wanted to listen. He's usually pretty talkative. And brother Melvin Little out of Georgia, I want to say thank you for coming on. He was definitely driving, trying to get here, and got on. And I think he kind of tapered back a little bit. Just wanted to listen to see what you had to say. Oh, what day he is right there.
I'm here. I hear Gean's over there singing. So
No.
I'm gonna let Gean sing.
Gean, transfer the host back over to me, please.
Where do I do that?
The 3 little dots up over by your name, up overhead. Well, you'll find it on my side. The 3 dots on my
Oh
side.
yeah. I got to do it on your picture, huh?
Yeah.
Make host. You want to transfer the host? Yes. All right, you got it. You're on the hook now.
I appreciate that. And
It's all Tony's fault.
As I was saying, once again, hey, I appreciate you coming on, and it's been real, it's been fun, and it's some questions in there that I was like, but you answered them. I mean, you did your thing. So tonight's topic was in regards to who makes the rules for the jurisdictions, and we kind of all know it, but when you can apply your rules to someone else's organization, because they're what may work for you may not work for someone else. It all depends on numbers, volume, what's happening. It's a whole lot that is going on in that content to where what Gean, I can't apply what Gean do in the Grand Lodge of California to what's done over here. I can't do it.
There is no overarching governance. The law of the Grand Lodge of California is of importance to Masons in this jurisdiction and lodges in this jurisdiction.
Absolutely.
And we have absolutely no authority over anybody else. We may or may not form relationships with other jurisdictions based on what they do with their law, and we've seen recent cases of that. But we have no authority over anybody else, only our own lodges and the members of them. So,
absolutely,
when people use that term Masonic law, it has to be prefaced with, in my jurisdiction, our Masonic law says. Because yours may say something completely different.
Something completely different. Well, I appreciate you coming on once again. I'm gonna go hang out with one of my lodge brothers real quick. He drove all the way over here, so I'm gonna go hang out, have a little fun. I appreciate everybody coming in, and go ahead.
Muhammad.
Yes, go ahead.
I got one question. This question is for Gean. How many times have you been suspended for people telling on you to your Grand Lodge?
How many times have I what?
How many times have you been suspended from people telling on you in your Grand Lodge?
How many times, Gean?
I'm still
I
waiting.
just asked you how many times have you been suspended? You need to let me know how many times.
It has been tried on.
Gean, that's not the question.
But nobody
That's
has
not the question,
succeeded
Gean.
yet. Nobody.
Did you say 0?
He said 0.
Oh, okay. I just wanted to ask that question for clarification.
Hey, I'm gonna say this. I was trying to leave, but Melvin said something that got me sticking around for a minute. When I held the first Among Us, and when we did the West Coast Masonic conference, just a a few years back, and I'd asked Gean to come and speak and say whatever he had to say. Man, people was up in arms. I mean, they like blew a top. Gean is going to go and oh my God, that was, man, I thought you was done. I thought they had stuck a fork in you. I thought you was Gean. I'm not gonna lie, bruh. I'm not gonna lie. I thought they had like totally just took a shovel, the spade, and just put you in the casket and threw dirt on it and planted an acacia at your head. I thought it was over.
Nah.
Oh my God.
As a matter of fact, my grandmaster made some suggestions and some things that I might even present at that
Okay.
event. So yeah, no, that not going to happen. Didn't happen.
No. So
Okay,
with
so
that-
Gean, I have another question. How many? I know you already said them. How many times have they tried to get you
How many
suspended?
times has somebody tried to get me suspended?
Yeah, more than twice.
Oh, more than twice before I was even an officer. Let me offer something, one little tidbit from my own history. When I first heard about the division between mainstream and Prince Hall Masonry, I campaigned long and hard to create amity between the Prince Hall Grand Lodge of California and my jurisdiction. And that was the first time I was threatened with Masonic charges. So it goes along, like that. And that was back in the early 90s. So yeah, I've had people try to file charges against me. For a number of
Did you say that they tried or they did?
Try, because in the Grand Lodge, California, you have to have standing to file charges, and B, have cause. And it's very similar to the civilian community, where a member of your lodge must prefer charges, and in the absence, if a situation is presented to the lodge and no member of the lodge is there to prefer charges, the junior warden does it on behalf of that person. But there also has to be a specific section of the California Masonic Code that you're accused of violating.
Go ahead.
And that ain't happened yet.
But see, that's the thing. Most people want to apply their rules of their jurisdictions on you and then say you have broken these rules,
Right.
without knowing what rules that governs your jurisdiction.
Yeah. So they've tried to have me suspended, but it hadn't happened. And matter of fact, formal charges have never been filed. I've had the Grand Secretary laugh a couple of people off the phone. But
Well, I'm filing charges on you as soon as I hang this phone up.
okay, all right. I'm looking forward to it. Make sure you cite the section of the California Masonic Code that's in question, sir.
I'm just gonna put Tony Muhammad on there.
That's
That
fine.
should do it. That should do
Oh my goodness. So look, gentlemen, I appreciate you, Brother Little. Everyone for coming in, and I really do. And as always, remember, I'm not your study guy, but I'm here to help you study. I appreciate Brother Gean Goldman for coming on tonight, Brother Morpheus, Brother Melvin Little. And I had two other gentlemen that came on, but before I flipped on the camera, they was like, oh, I gotta go. And that was a brother from Prince Hall Grand Lodge out of Arkansas, Frederick. Can't think of his last name right now. And there was a Myrtle Beasley or something like that. But anyway, it's what it is. I appreciate you brothers for coming on and supporting. Until next time, everybody do what they got to do. Hey, keep their light on and
Good seeing you, Tony. I just sent you an address for 11 o'clock tomorrow.
Okay, I appreciate that. Hey, what time do the DMV open? I gotta go down there.
I don't know. Let me look. Hang on.
Oh, 9 o'clock. Got it. They just told me 9, so I'm good.
There you go. 9 o'clock. All right. I'll see you at 11. Bring people along if you want.
Absolutely. I
And-
think I can bring somebody along with me.
Okay.
You working tomorrow?
Uh-oh.
Sheets. That's all right. I'll be there.
Okay.
All right. Hey, take care of yourself.
I see you, Gean.
All right.
All right.